तस्मै गणाधिपतये नमः. Please repeat. वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय कोटिसूर्य समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देवा सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा गणपतये नमः. प्रार्थनां समर्पयामि. निर्विघ्नं कुरु निर्विघ्नं कुरु.
We are live. Check it out online.
कलश प्रतिष्ठापनं कर्म करिष्ये. कलशस्य मुखे विष्णुः कण्ठे रुद्रसमाश्रितः मूले वक्रसतो ब्रह्माद्ये मातृगणाः कुक्षौ दुस्सागराः सर्वे सप्तद्वीपावसुन्धरा. ऋग्वेदोऽथ यजुर्वेदः सामवेदोऽश्यधर्मणः अङ्गैश्च सहिताः सर्वे कलशाम्बो समाश्रिताः. तत्र गायत्री सावित्री शान्तिदृष्टे करे च आयां तो सर्वेषां दुरितक्षयकारकाः. सर्वे समुद्राः सरितस्तीर्थानि जलदानदाः. गङ्गे जीर्णे चैव गोदावरी सरस्वती नर्मदे सिन्धु कावेरी जलेऽस्मिन् सन्निधिं कुरु. गङ्गा भागीरथी नमः. कलशमध्ये सन्निहिताः सन्तु. लं पृथिव्यात्मना गन्धं कल्पयामि. लं आकाशात्मना पुष्पं कल्पयामि. लं वायुवात्मना धूपं कल्पयामि. लं अग्न्यात्मना दीपं कल्पयामि. त्वम् अमृतात्मना नैवेद्यं कल्पयामि. पञ्चोपचारपूजाः समर्पयामि. कलशमध्ये देवतावाहनं च कर्म करिष्ये. नन्दं सुनन्दं गरुडं प्रचण्डं चिन्नमेव च जयं च विजयं चैव कुमुदं कुमुदेक्षणं द्वारपालदेवताभ्यो नमः. विष्णोरासनभूताय चित्रस्तमयाय च प्रधानपुरुषेशाय महापीठाय ते नमः. संपत्नाय नमः. सुवर्णपीठपूजां प्रकल्पयामि. ॐ इदं विष्णुर्विचक्रमे त्रेणानिधादेवतं समोहळमस्यतां सुरे वस्तु विरचिता वनापुनं यत्र धीरामनासा वाचमन्त्राः प्रसीद भगवन्ना गच्छ भगवन्तं षष्ठेकं सपरिवारं सायुधं सर्वालङ्कारभूषितं लक्ष्मीनारायणं ववस्तु स्वस्तिकामध्ये कलशमध्ये सूर्यमण्डलात् आवाहयामि स्थापयामि पूजयामि. ॐ प्रणो देवी सरस्वती पादेभिर्वाजिनीवती नामावित्र्यावतो सरस्वत्यै नमः. प्रसीद भगवती आगच्छ भगवतीं श्रीशक्तिं साङ्गां सायुधां सर्वालङ्कारभूषितां श्रीसरस्वतीं भवत्स स्वस्तिकामध्ये कलशमध्ये च प्रतिमायामावाहयामि स्थापयामि पूजयामि. सरस्वत्यै नमः. स्थापयामि पूजयामि. गणानां तेऽधिकृत्समुतो गणपतिर्जगति गणपत्यावाहने विनियोगः. ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रावस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्माणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नो दिव्यसेदसादानं महागणपते नमः. कलशमध्ये स्वस्तिकामध्ये चावाहयामि स्थापयामि पूजयामि. आवाहितदेवताभ्यो नमः. सुप्रतिष्ठिताः सन्तु. ध्रुवाद्यो ध्रुवा पृथिवी ध्रुवा सप्तर्वादायिमे ध्रुवं विश्वामिदं जगद्ध्रुवो राजा विशामयं ध्रुवं ते राजा वर्णो ध्रुवं देवो बृहस्पतिः ध्रुवं इन्द्रश्चाग्निश्चराष्ट्रं धारयतां ध्रुवम्. आवाह्यदेवताभ्यः स्वागतम्. आसनमिदं वाद्यं समर्पयामि. अर्घ्यं समर्पयामि. आचमनं समर्पयामि. मधुपर्कं समर्पयामि. पुनराचमनं समर्पयामि. शुद्धोदका स्नानं समर्पयामि. वस्त्रयुक्तं समर्पयामि. आभरणानि समर्पयामि. अलङ्काराणि च समर्पयामि. वत्स्याय नमः. कूर्माय नमः. कलहाय नमः. नारसिंहाय नमः. वामनाय नमः. परशुरामाय नमः. रामाय नमः. कृष्णाय नमः. बुद्धाय नमः. कल्किने नमः. अनन्ताय नमः. विश्वरूपाय नमो नमः. नामपूजां समर्पयामि. श्रीदेव्यै नमः. अमृतोद्भवायै नमः. कमलाशक्त्यै नमः. सर्वसौन्दर्यायै नमः. विष्णुपत्न्यै नमः. वैष्णव्यै नमः. वाराह्यै नमः. वेददेवतायै नमः शार्ङ्गिण्यै नमः हरिवल्लभायै नमः शर्वाण्यै नमः सर्वसेवितायै नमः नामपूजां समर्पयामि धूपम् आग्रापयामि वनस्पतिरसोत्पन्नगन्धाढ्यो धूपोत्तमः आग्रेयः सर्वदेवानां धूपोऽयं दृश्यताम् दीपं च दर्शयामि ॐ भूर्भुवत्सुवः पुरतस्तावित फलमिदं समर्पयामि अमृतोपस्तरणमसि स्वाहा प्राणाय स्वाहा अपानाय स्वाहा ज्ञानाय स्वाहा दानाय स्वाहा समानाय स्वाहा ब्रह्मणे स्वाहा अमृतपानीयं समर्पयामि तत्परा पोषणादिकं समर्पयामि नैवेद्यं विसर्जयामि अथ मङ्गलनीराजनं करिष्ये ॐ जयते हरिरचिन्त्यः सर्वदेवैकवन्द्यः परमगुरुरभीष्टवाप्तिदा सज्जनानां निखिलगुणगणार्णो नित्यनिर्मुक्तदोषः सर्वजनेन नमसो श्रीपतेन मानदो नः मङ्गलनीराजनं दर्शयामि अखिलविधाराजोपचारपूजाः समर्पयामि रक्षां शिरसा धारयामि स्वस्ति सरस्वती
सरस्वती
नमस्तुभ्यं
नमस्तुभ्यं
वरदे
वरदे
कामरूपिणी
कामरूपिणी
विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा सरस्वत्यै नमः प्रार्थनां समर्पयामि. Please take your book and pen. Please look at मातृदेवो भव
मातृदेवो भव
पितृदेवो भव
पितृदेवो भव
आचार्यदेवो भव
आचार्यदेवो भव
अतिथिदेवो भव
अतिथिदेवो भव
आशिष
आशिष
प्रार्थयते
प्रार्थयते
लक्ष्मीनारायणाभ्यां नमः
लक्ष्मीनारायणाभ्यां नमः
वाणी
वाणी
हिरण्यगर्भाभ्यां नमः
हिरण्यगर्भाभ्यां नमः
उमा महेश्वराभ्यां नमः
महेश्वराभ्यां नमः
अरुन्धती
अरुन्धती
वसिष्ठाभ्यां नमः
वसिष्ठाभ्यां नमः
सीता
सीता
रामाभ्यां नमः
रामाभ्यां नमः
मातृभ्यो नमः
मातृभ्यो नमः
पितृभ्यो नमः
पितृभ्यो नमः
आचार्येभ्यो नमः
आचार्येभ्यो नमः
इष्टदेवताभ्यो नमः
इष्टदेवताभ्यो नमः
कुल
कुल
देवताभ्यो नमः
देवताभ्यो नमः
ग्राम
ग्राम
देवताभ्यो नमः
देवताभ्यो नमः
स्थल
स्थल
देवताभ्यो नमः
देवताभ्यो नमः
सर्वेभ्यो
सर्वेभ्यो
देवेभ्यो नमः
देवेभ्यो नमः
ॐ स्वस्ति विद्या आरम्भ
आरम्भ
कर्मणः
कर्मणः
मुहूर्तः सुमुहूर्तो अस्तु
मुहूर्तो अस्तु
इति
इति
भवन्तो
भवन्तो
ब्रुवन्तु तदेव लग्नं सुदिनं तदेव ताराबलं चन्द्रबलं तदेव विद्याबलं दैवबलं तदेव लक्ष्मीपते ते अङ्ग्रेगं स्मरामि सुमुहूर्ता सावधान सुलग्ना सावधान लक्ष्मीनारायणस्य ध्याना सावधान.
ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
उनको बोलो वो रोटेट नहीं करने दे रहा है, लाइट जो है ना वो रोटेट नहीं करने दे रहा है। ऐसे कर रही हो तो बोल रहा है ओरिएंटेशन इज नॉट करेक्ट।
Which letter? Which one? All the aksharas in only one word. Concentrated. Which one? O. First, how to start? O. Are you ready to start? Right? Are you ready to Right?
Does everyone
Om.
know to write Om?
Can you please start? Om.
Write Om.
Write Om.
If you don't know, you see your neighbor who is writing.
Yes.
Right? Those who know to write Om, write Om. Those who don't know, check. See your neighbor who knows to write.
Yes.
All the children, please start with writing Om.
Om. And Om.
Om. Yes.
I'll bring the bag.
Om. How to write Om?
He is showing.
Om.
ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ
And please repeat 3 times. All the letters in only one place. Which one? Oh. Yes.
ಶೋ ಅವರ್ ಈ ಕಡೆನೂ ತಿರುಗಿಸ್ಬೋದು
Yes.
Wow.
0. Okay. Next. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Can you please write Shri?
Those who know, write Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. They will show it to the others.
I'll get the mark.
Shri
You can take it.
Gurubhyo. Get
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. If someone can write big, I'll show it to you. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Parents, please help the new children write this.
Shri Gurubhyo.
Did all of you get it? Yes, receive. Here, you see this?
She is correct, right? Gurubhyo.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Done? Next one. Next one. Gurubhyo Namaha, you finish? Good. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Done? Good job. Next one, Ganeshaya Namaha.
Ganeshaya Namaha.
Ganesha, good job. Ganesha. And Saraswati will try. Should you say Ganeshaya Namaha?
Ganeshaya Namaha.
Ganeshaya Namaha.
Ganeshaya Namaha.
Ganeshaya Namaha.
Ganeshaya Namaha.
Ganeshaya Namaha.
Ganeshaya Namaha. There's no year.
Next one. Saraswatyai Namaha. Saraswatyai Namaha.
Your head is long.
Then Saraswati Namaha. Aksharaya Namaha. Aksharaya Namaha. A to Ksha. All the aksharas are included. Only one name, which is Aksharaya Namaha.
Aksharaya Namaha.
Akshara.
Also everybody. Finish? Finish, please write your name. Yes. Write your name. Yeah, in there. Who needs help?
All of you know to write your names in Devanagari.
In Sanskrit.
Oh, good. So you're good. Not do you two know to write your names? You know. She know to write
Then, your name? Okay. Today is which day? We are in Shobhakrit Nama Samvatsara. Which Samvatsara?
Shobhakrit Samvatsarah.
Samvatsara. And Ayanam Dakshinayam.
Dakshinayam.
And which masam, which month? Shravana. Nija Shravana Masa. and Simha Masa also. In Sauramana, Simha Masa.
तत्र सिंहः अस्ति
तत्र सिंहः अस्ति, सिंहमासम् अस्ति, सिंहमासः and शुक्लपक्षः. There are two pakshas,
शुक्ला
and Shukla and
कृष्ण
Krishna. Now today Shukla Paksha, and which tithi, which day today? Dashami. Dashami tithi. Which vasarah? Shanivasarah or Mandavasarah or Stiravasarah. All the name, same name. And which yoga adhyadine? मूला नक्षत्रः सरस्वती देव्याः नक्षत्रम् मूला नक्षत्रः अद्य दिने how many nakshatras 27 out of 27 today is moola nakshatra and yoga 20 out of 27 yogas there are today Preeti Rama yoga and 11 karanaha. Today is Garaja Namakarana. Garaja Namakarana. Garaja. And today is Stiravasaraha, Moola Nakshatraha, Preeti Nama Yogaha, Garaja Namakaranaha, Dakshinayanam, and Simha Masaha Karana. And Chandramanena Adhika Shravana Masa already over. Now? No. Nija Shravana Masa. This year we got another month, extra month, which is Adhika Shravana and Nija Shravana. The Shravana Masa, which is very auspicious day. Yesterday was Varamahalakshmi day. Yes? Yesterday Lakshmi blessed all of you.
But why
Yes.
there is no Lakshmi today?
Today is Lakshmi Narayana. Yesterday we did puja, right? Everyone did puja in your home. Today we are doing all together here. No. Okay, we will continue with Ganapati Home. Okay? Did you write your name? Yes. Good. संस्कारां गतयहाज्युहोमे विनियोगः ॐ भूः स्वाहा अग्नेन रुद्धाय नमः ॐ वः स्वाहा वायवेश्वी प्रद्युम्नाय नमः ॐ सुवः स्वाहा सूर्याय श्री सङ्कर्षणाय नमः ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वाहा प्रजापते श्री वासुदेवाय इदं नमः अग्नेः वैष्णवत्व सिद्ध्यर्थमाज्युहोमे विनियोगः अंतर्याम ऋषि गायत्री जनः नारायणो देवता ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम स्वाहा. Each and everyone please say नारायणाय इदं नमः. ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम स्वाहा. 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 नारायणाय इदं नमः. ओम भूर्भुवस्व स्वाहा. प्रजापते श्री वासुदेवाय इदं नमः. I am chanting now Rigveda Purusha Sukta. If you know, please repeat or just follow. At the end of that, each ahuti Vishnava idan namama. How to say? How to say? Om Sahasra
सहस्रशीर्षेति षोडशरचसुस्तस्य नारायणऋषिरट्टप्छन्दहान्त्यादट्टप्छन्दः परमपुरुषो देवता अग्नेः वैष्णवकसिद्ध्यर्थमाज्यहोमे विनियोगः ॐ सहस्राशीर्षा पुरुषः सहस्राक्षः सहस्रापाद स भूमिं विश्वतो वृत्वात्यातिष्ठद्दशाङ्गुलम् ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ पुरुष एवेदं सर्वं यद्भूतं यच्च भव्यम् उतामृतत्वस्येषानो इदन्नेहातिरोहाति ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ एतावानस्य महिमा तो जायाश्च पुरुषः पादोऽस्य विश्वा भूतानि त्रिपादस्यामृतं दिवे ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ त्रिपादोर्ध्वदेत्पुरुषः पादोऽस्येह भावः पुनः ततो विश्वं व्यक्रामतशासनानशने अभे ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ तस्माद्विराळा जायत विराजो अधिपूरुषः स जातो अत्यारुच्यत पश्चाद्भूमिमतो पुरः ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः यत्पुरुषेण हविषा देवायज्ञमदन्वत वसन्तो अस्यासीदाज्यं ग्रीष्मयज्ञशरद्भिः ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ तज्ञं बर्हिषि प्रोक्षन् पुरुषं जातमग्रतः तेना देव आयजन्त साध्यार्षाजश्च ये ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ तस्माद्दज्ञाः सर्वहुतसंवृतं वृषदाज्यं पशून्ताश्चक्रे वायव्यानारण्यां ग्राम्याश्च ये ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ तस्माद्दज्ञाः सर्वहुतरुचः सामानजज्ञिरे छन्दां सजज्ञिरे तस्मादजायत ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ तस्मादश्वाः अजायन्त एके चोभयादातः गावो जज्ञिरे तस्माज्जाता आजावयाः ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः यत्पुरुषं विदादुःखजिता व्याकल्पयन् मुखं किमस्य कौ बाहु काभूरुपादा उच्येते ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ ब्राह्मणस्य मुखमासीत् बाहुराजन्यकृतः ऊरो तदस्य यद्वैश्यपद्भ्यां शूद्रो आजायत ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ चन्द्रमा मनासो जातश्चक्षो सूर्यो अजायत मुखादिन्द्रश्चाग्निश्च प्राणाद्वायुराजायत ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ नाभ्या आसीदन्तरिक्षं शेष्णोद्योः समावर्तत पद्भ्यामोदर्दिशश्रोत्रा तथा लोकान् आकल्पयन् ॐ स्वाहा नमः ॐ सप्तास्या आसन् परतयस्त्रः सप्तः समितः कृताः देवायद्यज्ञं तन्माना अबध्नन् पुरुषं पशुं ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ यज्ञेना यज्ञमायजन्त देवास्तान् धर्माणि प्रथमान्यासन् देहनाकं महिमानः सजन्त यत्र पूर्वे साध्याः सन्ति देवाः ॐ स्वाहा विष्णव इदन्नमः ॐ भूः स्वाहा ॐ भुवः स्वाहा ॐ सुवः स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवस्व स्वाहा प्रजापते श्रीवासुदेवाय इदन्नमः गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कावेनामुपमश्रावस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सेदसादानम् ॐ स्वाहा इदन्नमः ॐ स्वाहा ॐ भूः स्वाहा ॐ भुवः स्वाहा ॐ सुवः स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवस्व स्वाहा वासुदेवाय इदन्नमः द्वारपालकेभ्यो स्वाहा ॐ पीठदेवताभ्यो स्वाहा ॐ नवशक्तिदेवताभ्यः स्वाहा ॐ प्रसीद भगवन्नागच्छ भगवन्तं षष्ठेकं सपरिवारं सायुधं सर्वालङ्कारभूषितं महागणपत्यन्तर्गतप्राणस्थविश्वं वरोर्विपरमात्मानं पूजार्थं त्वामग्निमध्ये सूर्यमण्डलादावाहयामि स्वाहा ॐ भूः गणपतिं आवाहयामि ॐ स्वाहा ॐ भुवः गणपतिं आवाहय ॐ स्वाहा ॐ सुवः गणपतिं आवाहयामि ॐ स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवः सुवः गणपतिं आवाहयामि ॐ स्वाहा इदं नमः ॐ गणकर्षिणिच्चिरगायत्री छन्दः महागणपतिर्देवतां ॐ गां मृतजाय नमः ॐ स्वाहा ॐ गीं शिरसे स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ गूं शुकायै विषुड स्वाहा ॐ गैं गवचाय ॐ स्वाहा ॐ गौ नेत्रत्रयाय विषुड स्वाहा ॐ गहास्रावट ॐ स्वाहा ॐ रक्ताम्बरो रक्ततनोः रक्तमाल्यानुलेपनः लम्बोदरो गजमुखः पाशदन्ताङ्कुशाभये विप्रध्येयो विघ्नहरः कामदत्स्वर्गयाप्रियम् ॐ गं गणपतये नमः ॐ स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपते वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशं मानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ क्षिप्रप्रसादाय नमः ॐ स्वाहा ॐ गणपते नमः स्वागतमस्तु स्वाहा आसनमिदं स्वाहा आद्यं समर्पयामि स्वाहा अर्घ्यं समर्पयामि ॐ स्वाहा आचमनं समर्पयामि ॐ स्वाहा वधुवर्कं समर्पयामि ॐ स्वाहा पुनराचमनं समर्पयामि ॐ स्वाहा स्नानं समर्पयामि ॐ स्वाहा वस्त्रं समर्पयामि ॐ स्वाहा विभूषणं समर्पयामि ॐ स्वाहा उपवीते समर्पयामि ॐ स्वाहा गन्धं लेपयामि ॐ स्वाहा अक्षतैः अर्चयामि ॐ स्वाहा पुष्पैः पूजयामि ॐ स्वाहा आवरणदेवताभ्यः स्वाहा ॐ भूः स्वाहा ॐ भुवः स्वाहा ॐ सुवः स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वाहा श्रीवासुदेवाय इदं नमः गणकर्षिणिच्चिरगायत्री छन्दः महागणपतिर्देवता गणपतिप्रीत्यर्थप्रदानहोमे विनियोगः ॐ Now you can say गणपतय इदं नमः ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशं मानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशं मानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशं मानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवस्व स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवस्व स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं लङ्गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा
गणपतये
ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं लङ्गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा
गणपतये
ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं लङ्गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा
गणपतये
ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं लङ्गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा
गणपतये
ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं लङ्गं गणपतये वरवरदः सर्वजनं मे वशमानय स्वाहा स्वाहा
गणपतये
ॐ भूः स्वाहा ॐ भुवः स्वाहा ॐ सुवः स्वाहा ॐ भुवर्भुवस्व स्वाहा वासुदेवाय नमः शेषेण शिष्टकृतं कुम्भोदराय विघ्नपार्षदाय नमः ॐ स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवस्व स्वाहा ॐ इतः पूर्वं प्राणबुद्धिदेह कर्मादिकारतः जाग्रत् स्वप्नाशुशुद्ध्यवस्था समनसा वाचकर्मणा हस्ताभ्यां पद्भ्यां मधुरेण शिष्णादुर्गमिदत्वमस्मृतं तत्सर्वं ब्रह्मार्पणं भवतः स्वाहा ॐ भूः स्वाहा ॐ भुवः स्वाहा ॐ सुवः स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवस्व स्वाहा ॐ मयाश्चाग्ने सदपि स्वस्तितसत्त्वमुत्तमया आसि मया स वया सकृतहव्यम् उषयानो देहि वेषजं स्वाहा ॐ मतो देवा आवन्तु न यतो विष्णुर्विचक्रमे पृथिव्या सप्तदामाभिः ॐ स्वाहा ॐ विष्णवदेवेभ्येदं नमः ॐ इदं विष्णुर्विचक्रमे त्रेदानि दादे पदं समूढमस्य पांसरे ॐ स्वाहा ॐ भूः स्वाहा ॐ भुवः स्वाहा ॐ सुवः स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवस्व स्वाहा वासुदेवाय नमः मनाज्ञातमिताज्ञातं यज्ञस्य क्रियतेमितो अग्ने ततस्य कल्पे कथमवेत्त यथा तद्गस्वाहा अग्ने नमः ॐ पुरुषसंहितो यज्ञो यज्ञः पुरुषसंहितः अग्ने ततस्य कल्पे कथमवेत्त यथा तद्गस्वाहा अग्ने नमः ॐ यत्वा कत्रामनासादीतक्षाणज्ञासुमन्वते मर्त्यासः अग्निष्टन्दोता रुजयाजवति स्वाहा अग्ने नमः मित्तो देवादिपादयाय वाचाय प्रियति देवहेडानम् अरयोस्मामिदञ्चूनादे अन्यत्रस्मान्मानुते तनस्तन्यते तनस्वाहा ॐ भूः स्वाहा ॐ भुवः स्वाहा ॐ सुवः स्वाहा ॐ भूर्भुवस्य स्वाहा वासुदेवाय इदं नमः पुनः पूजां करिष्ये पूजार्थे अर्घ्यं समर्पयामि आवाह्य देवताभ्यो नमः महागणपतये नमः स्थापिता ॐ भूर्भुवत्सुवः सत्यन्नव्रतेन वर्षिञ्चामि अन्तःचरतभूतेषु गुहायां सर्वतोमुखः त्वं यज्ञः त्वं षड्कारः त्वं विष्णुः पुरुषपरः पुरतः स्थापिता नैवेद्यं समर्पयामि अमृतोपस्तरणमसि स्वाहा प्राणाय स्वाहा ॐ अपानाय स्वाहा ॐ व्यानाय स्वाहा ॐ उदानाय स्वाहा ॐ समानाय स्वाहा ॐ ब्रह्मणे स्वाहा नैवेद्यं समर्पयामि अमृतपानीयम् उत्तरापोषणादिकं समर्पयामि नैवेद्यं विसर्जयामि आरती तच्छन्योरावृणीमहे
वातुं यज्ञाय दातुं यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वं जिगावभेषजम् शन्नो अस्तु द्विपदे शञ्चतुष्पदे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
वेदोक्तमङ्गलनीराजनमुहूर्तः सुमुहूर्तो अस्तु इति भवन्तो ब्रुवन्तो सुमुहूर्तमस्तु
Raja
स्वामी श्रीभद्रमारमण गोविंद गोविंद गणपति भगवान की बोलो सरस्वती माता की राजाधिराजाय प्रसख्य साहिने नमो वयं वै श्रवणाय कुर्महे समे कामान् कामकामाय मह्यं कामेश्वरो वै श्रवणो ददातु कुबेराय वै श्रवणाय महाराजाय नमः ॐ स्वस्ति साम्राज्यं भोज्यं स्वराज्यं वैराज्यं पारमेष्ट्यं राज्यं महाराज्यमादिवत्तमयं समन्तपर्याये स्यात् सार्वभौम सर्वायुष अन्नापरार्तात् पृथक्ते समुद्रपर्यन्ताय आयेतराळिति तदप्येष श्लोको विगीतो मरुतः परिवेष्टात् मरुतस्यावसंगृहे आविक्ष्यतस्य कामप्रे विश्वे देवा सभासद इति ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं शोकरहितः सज्जनाः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्राः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सधनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतम् सर्वेऽपि सुखिनः सन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे अपराधसहस्राणि क्रियन्ते अहर्निशं मया तानि सर्वाणि मे देव क्षमस्व पुरुषोत्तम श्रीराम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं राम नाम वरानने श्रीराम नाम वराननमो नमयते ॐ स्वस्ति कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः पूर्णाहुतिमुहूर्तः सुमुहूर्तो अस्तीति भवन्तो ब्रुवन्तो ओम्याः पर्णेयाः कलाः पुष्पायाश्च पुष्पणेः बृहस्पतिप्रसूतास्तानो मञ्जन्तं हासः ॐ स्वाहा यज्ञाय नारायणाय इदं नमः इदं फलं मया देवा भूमितं च कुरुश्वासन येन मे सुफलावाप्तिः भवेत् जन्मनि जन्मनि ॐ भूरग्ने च पृथिवे च महते च स्वाहा ॐ भो वायुवे चान्तरिक्षे च महते च स्वाहा ॐ सुबलादित्यजिदिवे च महते च स्वाहा ॐ भोर्भवसचन्द्रमसे च नक्षत्रदिग्भश्च महते च स्वाहा एकं इत्यादीनमाज्यं गृहीत्वा पूर्णावतिहो मे विनियोगः दामन्ते विश्वं घोरवदशतं तस्सामुद्रत्यन्तरायुषे अपावनीके समिते च आवर्षवतं तुन्दपूर्मिं स्वाहा ॐ चत्वारि शृङ्गत्रयोऽस्य पादाद्वेषेर्षे सप्तहस्ता स्वस्य तदा बुद्धोरोषपरोर्वीचमहोदेवर्त्यङ्गाविवेश ॐ स्वाहा ॐ विद्योदेशा बृहतावात्यग्निराविर्विश्वान् गुणदे महित्वा राधेभिर्माया सह चतुरेवाशिषितशृङ्गिरक्षा सविनक्ष्य ॐ स्वाहा ॐ यज्ञेन यज्ञमायजन्त देवास्तानधर्माणि प्रथमान्यासन् एहनाकं महिमानसजन्त यत्र पूर्वे साध्याः सन्ति देवाः ॐ स्वाहा ॐ स्वाहा अग्नेपूर्णाय स्वाहा इन्द्राय रुद्राः स्वाहा देवेभ्यः विहि स्वाहा देवाः अमृतामादयन्ताम् ॐ भूर्भुवस्सु स्वाहा यज्ञाय नारायणाय इदं नमः पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ च मे स्वरश्च मे यज्ञोपजते नमश्च यत्ते
नूनं तस्मै तौपयते रिक्तं तस्मै ते नमः.
Please repeat. Om Swasti.
Om Swasti.
Shraddham.
Shraddham.
Medham.
Medham.
Yashaha.
Yashaha.
Prajnam.
Prajnam.
Vidyam.
Vidyam.
Buddhim.
Buddhim.
Shriyam.
Shriyam.
Balam.
Balam.
Ayushyam.
Ayushyam.
Tejaha.
Tejaha.
Arogyam.
Arogyam.
Dehi me.
Dehi me.
Havyavahana.
Havyavahana.
Dehi me.
Dehi me.
Garnanayaka.
Garnanayaka.
श्रीभद्रमारमण गोविंद चतुस्सागर पर्यन्तं गो ब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभं भवतु अभिवादये. Please do 3 clockwise pradakshina namaskaram. यानि कानि च पापानि जन्मान्तरकृतानि च तानि तानि विनश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिणपदे. पापोऽहं पापकं वाहं पापात्मा पापसम्भवः. त्राहि मां कृपया देव शरणागतवत्सल. अन्यथा शरणं नास्ति त्वमेव शरणं मम. तस्मात् कारुण्यभावेन रक्ष रक्ष जनार्दन रक्ष रक्ष गजानन. हनुमते हनुममुक्ताः सरस्वती हनुममुक्ताः देवस्तुतः प्रासादेहि सर्वजार्थे नित्यं समर्पयामि नैवेद्यार्थे अवशिष्टाच्योपहारमहानैवेद्यं समर्पयामि. ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुः स्वाहा. यज्ञाय नारायणाय नमः. ॐ तत्सत्. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियेण वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावः करोमि यद्यस्य सकलं परस्मै नारायणाय समर्पयामि. अनेन पूजनेन होमेन सर्वात्मयमणि प्राणस्तलक्ष्मी नारायणः प्रियताम्. श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु. कर्मकाले सर्वलोकपाश्चित्कार्कं नामत्रया जपमहं करिष्ये. ॐ अच्युताय नमः. अनन्ताय नमः. ॐ गोविन्दाय नमः. ॐ अच्युताय नमः. अनन्ताय नमः. ॐ गोविन्दाय नमः. ॐ अच्युताय नमः. ॐ अनन्ताय नमः. ॐ गोविन्दाय नमः. अच्युताय गोविन्देभ्यो नमः. देवताभ्यः यथास्थानमुद्वासयामि. विष्णवे 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 नमः. हरिः ओम्. केतनये मान आयुष्मानो दोषमानो अश्वेश्वरी दिशः. वीरान् मानो रुद्रपामितो वैर्विष्णुं नमसा विधेमते. त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम्. उर्वारुकमिव वन्दनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्.
When we have to learn something, we need brain power, right? That's Veda. Listen and remember, then in school we will learn. Listen and remember. This one, listen and set it down. Yeah. Just sit and listen. Practice.
Now, Veda Siddhi Mantra. Veda Siddhi Mantra. Please be seated with Jnana Mudra, and Sukhasana. And please be silent.
All of you, Jnana Mudra.
Jnana Mudra, and please be seated. Okay? And please close your eyes. Please listen. Close your eyes and please listen. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Yachandasa Vrishabho Vishwarupaha Chandobhyo Jamrita Sambhabhuva Samendro Dehaya Asprunod Amritasya Devadharano Bhuyasam Shariram Me Vicharshanam Jihva Me Madhumattama Karnabhyam Bhuri Vishruvam Brahmana Koshosi Medhaya Pihitaha Shrutam Me Gopaya Avahanti Vitanvana Guruvana Kshiramatmanaha Vasagam Sivamagavascha Annapane Cha Sarvada Tato Me Shriyamavaha Lomasham Pashubhis Sahasvaha Amayantu Brahmacharina Svaha Virmayantu Brahmacharina Svaha Pramayantu Brahmacharina Svaha Damayantu Brahmacharina Svaha Shamayantu Brahmacharina Svaha Yashojane Sani Svaha Shreyan Vasya Sosani Svaha Tandva Bhaga Pravishani Svaha Sama Bhaga Pravisha Svaha Tasmin Sahasra Shakhe Vibhagaham Taimruje Svaha Yatha Papravadayanti Yatha Masa Aharjaram Evam Mam Brahmacarinaha Datarayantu Sarvada Svaha Prativeshosi Pramabhahi Pramapadyasva Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Veda Siddhi Sukta. Now, Veda Sukta. Are you able to repeat? Are you ready?
You will listen.
Listen.
Okay,
Medha Devi.
Om
Medha Devi. Please repeat. Medha Devi. Jushamana. Vishwachi. Bhadra. Sumanasyamana. Tvaya Jushta. Mudamana. Durukta. Bruhatvadema. Vidathe. Suviraha. Tvaya Jushta. Vishirbhavati. Devi Tvaya. Brahmagata. Shriruta. Tvaya. Jushtaschitram. Vindate vaso.
विन्दते वसु
सानो जुषस्व रविणो न मेधे मेधां मा इन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विना उभा दत्ता पुष्करस्रजा अप्सरासु चया मेधा गन्धर्वेषु चयन्मनः देवी मेधा सरस्वती सामां मेधा जुषताग स्वाहा आमां मेधा विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगति जगम्या ओजस्वते पयसा पिन्वमाना सामां मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्तां मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मय्यग्निस्तेजो ददातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्रियं ददातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो
प्राजो ददातु
शान्तिः हरिः ॐ
कायेन वाचा करोमि यद्यत्
सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि अनेन अगस्त्य गुरुकुले विद्यारम्भ पूजा कर्मकरणेन सरस्वती प्रियतां गणपति प्रियतां सर्वान्तर्यामिने श्रीकृष्णः प्रियतां सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु अच्युताय नमः अनन्ताय नमः गोविन्दाय नमः
Now here comes Archana ji, the founder, to give us more vision, a clear vision about the school. So, Dr. Archana Purushottam is the visionary, the thought that started the whole thing. You know, as many people as we know, we're sitting in a family room over chai samosa. We all talk about, oh, Bharatiya culture, what has happened, everything is not as good as it was before. So talking many people can do, but here somebody who actually taken action to do something positive. So that is why we are gathered here. Let us hear from the visionary herself.
अद्य अगस्त्य गुरुकुलस्य उत्तर अमेरिका प्रप्रथम उत्तर अमेरिका परिसरस्य उद्घाटनसमारोहाय आगमनार्थम् अनेकाः धन्यवादाः. Thank you all for joining us for this inauguration of our first Agastya Gurukulam's first campus in North America. This is a very joyous occasion. Our first campus was in India. It was started in June, and it is now in full-fledged in the middle of the academic year. And here we are starting. This is the second campus worldwide, the first in North America. We are naming this Kaumudi. Each campus we give it a name. Our Bangalore campus is called Madhumati, and this will be called Kaumudi.
So which school do you go to? Agastya Gurukulam. Which campus? Kaumudi Parisara.
Asmakam Gurukulam.
Kaumudi Parisara.
Agastya Gurukulam. Asmakam Parisarah. Kaumudi Parisara. So, Agastya Gurukulam was started in 2019. Just a little brief. Some of you may know, some of you may not be aware. Started in 2019, and it has grown in leaps and bounds. We started our full-time school. This was online in 2020, just at the beginning of the pandemic. For 3 years, we have had a full-time school. Over this time, we have had students from 9 countries study with us, and now this year we are starting our first campuses. As I said, Bangalore is already started, and here we will be starting classes on Monday. So why are we doing this at Agastya? What is Agastya about? So is Agastya just some sort of nostalgia where we want to, revive something that's old? So we want to hold on to it. We don't want to let it go, and that's why we want to do this. Is that the idea? No, it's not. There's a purpose. There's a reason. So I'm going to use the words of one of my co-founders. So Vijaya Vishwanathan ji and Sri Balaji ji, they are the other founders and board members. And Vijaya Vishwanathan ji has said it very well as an attempt to turn the clock back. And what do we mean by that? So there was a thriving education system that already existed in India before the British. And when the British colonized us, this was destroyed, systematically, intentionally destroyed. And as a result, although I don't think it had an immediate effect, but over time, we all know, we know less, we are less rooted, we are less knowledgeable about our culture, about our traditions compared to our previous generation. And this has been progressively happening over generations. And if we don't get a hold of this knowledge, of this culture, and hold on to it, we are going to soon lose that. And you can see that. And when I say we are losing culture, we are losing language, we are losing values, very importantly. Plus there's other knowledge which we are not even aware that it exists, right? we see glimpses here and there. We hear about this. We hear about, oh, the Nobel Prize recently went for the circadian, related to this whole circadian rhythm concept, which was not known in Western science till recently. But thousands of years ago, Ayurveda was using this circadian rhythm. Certain medicines have to be eaten at this time. You have to dinacharya. That is what the whole dinacharya concept is about, circadian rhythm. So these kinds of very relevant knowledge. Another good example of this, when I was a child, at every wedding, we would be eating on the leaf plates, right? And at the end of the wedding, there was no major trash. The cows would come and eat it up, right? So we didn't leave behind a pollution problem. But now, even in India, there's extensive use of plastic at every event. And we all know how big a problem plastic has become. So now, the latest, newest thing on Amazon, you can pay an arm and a leg to buy leaf plates and biodegradable, disposable cutlery on Amazon. It seems like all this traditional knowledge, which we just forgot about, still holds answers, value, and in solving our current day problems, not just problems of those days, but problems of today. So this is one big reason we want to give this knowledge, the ability to access this knowledge to our children. The lack of knowledge of Sanskritam cuts us off from this. We are then dependent on others who translate it for us. And in that translation, they may be doing it correctly, or they may be doing it wrongly, either intentionally or unintentionally, we don't know. But this is where we give the opportunity for people to change the whole discourse about what really is there in our traditional system. So this is why Agastya has chosen to do Sanskrit and Shastra-based teaching to our children. Now, the other thing also about our Indian education system is that they were just like in many aspects of the traditions of the culture, there's a lot of science that underlies it in these practices. Now, the same way, they were also quite knowledgeable, it seems, about how the human brain develops in different phases and what is appropriate to teach at different ages and how to progress with that. Like early in life, for instance, memorization is a very strong ability. Children memorize very well when they're very young. So that was emphasized early on. And only as the child got older, they then started teaching them, logic, and then to actually argue themselves, to produce those arguments themselves. So this sort of progression is beautifully followed in these systems. And I don't think Western education necessarily has all those parts right. For instance, memorization has been completely thrown out and discredited, which is a very helpful and useful skill for the brain. Now, these are reasons why Agastya decided to do this. I must say a big thanks and congratulations to our team here. We have a very enthusiastic and you can see dedicated team. They have made this an excellent arrangements for all this events. Emaji, who is our principal, and you have all seen and heard her. And then we have our teachers. They are silently standing there on this side, and they are we have some more teachers who will be joining us, but you can see them. They have been working tirelessly, preparing for the next year, setting all this up. So now, I know that several of you are parents with your children here and are planning to put your children in Agastya. Thank you very much for the trust you have reposed in us in putting your children with us. I must say very proudly that we actually have 3 children who are our online children who are moving to Houston. Their families are moving to Houston to put them in the school. To me, that is the true testimony to how much Agastya has been, received well. When we started, there was this whole question about Sanskritam. How can you teach in Sanskrit? Sanskrit is not even used. Will the children understand? I think now, with 3 years past, we have put that question to rest. You should only see some of our classes where they're teaching maths or science in Sanskritam, and our children are, effortlessly, they understand, they speak, and they're able to participate. So I don't think there is any question really in my mind about whether Sanskritam is a viable medium for schooling. It certainly is. Now, with regards to when you put your child in Agastya, what should you expect? Expect to go on a journey. It's not like putting your child into another school. You will need to be involved, and you will be dragged in, you will be involved. Whether you want to or not, your Sanskritam will improve and you will start speaking some Sanskritam. So this I guarantee if you put your child here. Okay? So this is what you can expect from Agastya. Regards to others who are here, who are not parents intending to put their children, thank you very much for coming out to support us. This is very important to us. In whatever way you can, please support us. This is a I don't want to use a war word because, but this is a mission that we have to fight for our culture. If you are concerned about our culture, about our roots, about our traditional knowledge system surviving, please support Agastya. You should, it's not only about our children. It's about the next generation, right? Even if your child is not here, that's what we should be looking at. And we welcome you to support us in whatever way. Spread the word. Let others know. If you can't put your children here, let others know who can put their children. We don't refuse enrollment to anyone for fees, for financial reasons. We, subsidize costs for those who cannot afford this education, because our dream is that every child with Indian roots should have access to this education if they so desire. That's a grand dream. But to help us achieve this, if you are able to donate to support other children, please do so. Send us your good wishes. When you pray, think about Agastya, think good thoughts about Agastya. That itself helps us grow. So again, thank you all very much for coming out today.
Now I'll call upon one of our Chhatra, Atma, to introduce our chief guest. You will see that how Agastya is progressing.
You hold it on Atma.
Dr. Rajvedam Mahodayah, Vidyut Abhiyantr, Electrical Engineering, रूपेण बहुवर्षाणि यावत् विविध स्तरेषु अनुभवं प्राप्य विद्याविधि उपाधिं च अवाप्य विज्ञान गणित तन्त्रज्ञानशास्त्रेषु विशेषशक्तिम् अवर्धयत्। अस्य महोदयस्य गवेषणं तथा प्राचीनभारतीयः शास्त्रांशेषु गणितांशेषु योगदानं विभिन्नकालेषु अनेक संस्कृतिः प्रभावयत् कृषिं च दर्शयति। ग्रीस्, रोम् तथा च ईजिप्ट् नामक प्राचीनदेशीयानां विज्ञानगणितादि शास्त्राणां स्रोतासां मूलानां भारतीया एव इति सर्वेऽपि ते अपेक्षित आधारान् ददाति राजमहोदयस्येदं शोधकार्यम्। राजमहोदयस्य शोधफलानि देशान्मुक्तचर्चासु अनेक अध्यापककार्यशालासु प्रदत्तानि अपि च अमेरिकायाः हिन्दू विश्वविद्यालयेन अस्य महोदयस्य पाठ्यप्रणाली द्वयं स्वीकृताः तथा विविधा संस्कृतीनाम् अध्ययनं विभिन्न विभागेभ्यः प्रकाशिताधारान् उपयुज्य आदर्शप्रबन्धमेकम् आरब्धवान्। विशेषतः राजमहोदयस्य यूट्यूब् वीक्षकाः 300,00,000 सन्ति। इत्युक्ते कियान् प्रसिद्ध इति ज्ञायते।
So, Mr. Raj Vedam is here with us, and he has a PowerPoint presentation to share with us along with what he's going to tell you. So, please take a chair and come to this other room, and we will continue because there is a projector and everything on there. So, please come. Some chairs are there, but if everybody may not have, so please bring them. And we will take this one.
I think, Revati, see if we have to take this. If there is room in the front, yeah, hurry up and take it. Hurry up before the children sit down, take it. Patharanu kya likhta hai? She needs a hand. Let's put it on the table. Oh, just other one, put it on the table. अति सुंदर अति उत्तम हाँ Thank you. Yeah. Oh, yes, yes. आओ लता जय श्री कृष्ण જો જરૂર હોય તો આગળ પાછળનું મૂક્યું છે ને હા જગ્યા જ નહીં હોય અને નાની ચેર છે અહીંયા I'll bring the charging.
No, yeah. Yeah, it's better.
Please push these chairs behind, and these little chairs can come. Yeah, children, please come here. Children, please come here. Please come here.
I'm a big fool.
And also little chairs. Can you come up in here? Okay, adults can come here. It's no extra charge for front seat.
Most of us don't even know about what Indian knowledge systems are. Don't blame yourselves. It's our education system that has made it dumbed down. A lot of teachers have lectures, gurus, acharyas, teachers, they're not so we always try to so all of my talk today is an identity. It's how many of you know what identity is. Nice, all of you. Good. So identity answers some questions, existential questions. Things like, who am I? Who do I want my future self to be? I know what I am today, but what am I going to be tomorrow? How do I want to be tomorrow? How should I live my life? These are the kind of questions we want to ask. What our identity is to discover the transformation of things. To choose one's purpose in life, what it is because what it is meant. To find opportunities of future science, innovation, and purpose. Always told, you should follow your heart, animals, good deeds, good words, good actions, good thoughts, and the leading of life is something also. And so what is always important? If you know who you are, you're right, well known, then obviously your thoughts, words, and actions are filtered in a certain way. And then that's how they will
Yes, okay.
home, friends, office, and so on. Also the habits that you have, and how do you deal with life's struggles, hurt, and so on and so forth. So all of these outcomes can be learned in some way with a positive change. So in this karmic cycle, having a good identity and knowing who you are helps you to deal with life, understanding what life is, who you are, knowledge and that confidence that you have, self-esteem that you have. So the question I have today is, what do you do when your identity is under attack? It is not a rhetorical question. Today, there are a number of forces in the United States, in India, who are attacking the Hindu identity, who you are. They want to shame you, they want to criminalize your kind of thinking, your way of life, and they want to beat you down wherever you are. This is a reality. Today we are seeing the caste wars going on in California, Toronto, and many other places. We know that they're coming after the Hindus, coming after the Hindus. They don't want you to express your identity. So what do you do when prejudiced agencies chain you with their mind, with their laws, and so on, in their version of your truth? You know what you are, you know what your civilization is. You cannot recognize that in their narratives, right? So we are a truth-seeking civilization, and knowledge is the key. So I very quickly try to tell you where all these problems started. All of these problems started with the colonial people, like Archana ji already said today. When they came to India, they wrote a history of India to suit their purposes. They wanted to show Indians as backward, primitive, stagnant, superstitious society, and Western Europeans as progressive, modern, and these kinds of things. They were followed by Eurocentric scholars who wanted to show the superiority of the white Europeans over the Asians, Indians, and so on. So they did the translation of Sanskrit words in certain ways to aid that objective. Missionaries are always there. Wherever the European colonialists went, missionaries were there. And they wanted to convert the Indians, right? So they came with certain things. Since 1947, we've unfortunately got Nehruvian socialism in all of our academia. They believe that change can come only when we throw the past. The past is perverted, primitive, and the past in India is Hinduism. By throwing it out, they believe that we can have a utopian classless society. Same ideas that the Marxists also have. And today these frameworks, these 5 frameworks, they have taken the history of India, imposed their ideology, and led to a subversion of your identity. You cannot recognize yourself the way they portray you in movies, in academia, in media, in the constitutional laws, anywhere you go, you cannot recognize, is this the Hindu that is describing, am I that? Are my ancestors that? Is my community that? You cannot recognize it because they have defined your version of reality. It has come from these frameworks. Understanding this, knowledge is the key, like I said. So the corruptions have happened over 300 years. Colonial hegemony in the 16th and 20th centuries, people like Portuguese, Dutch, French, British, they wanted to present Hinduism as a post-flood religion, caste-ridden, Dravidians are oppressed people, and Brahminical Aryans are evil. They also wanted to bring about the Abbe Dubio and others. They wanted to show that Brahmins are evil people. And that thinking persists till the present day, where if you're a Brahmin, you dare not stand up and say, I'm a Brahmin, because they're beating you down so much, right? So these are the kind of situation that we have. So it has come with Christian imperialism, people like Calvin, Pope, and other people. And with Eurocentric scholars like Max Muller, Herbert Risley, and so on, who introduced the notion of Aryans as a race, caste system, 2 language families, with convergent ideologies that led to this. And you might think, this is all relic of the past, why do we care? Today we live in modern times, we should not bother about these things. Unfortunately, all this is a received wisdom for our academia. Whatever the colonialists and missionaries said, our academia has purchased it completely because it fits with the socialist ideology, right? It's received wisdom. So they continue with the so-called Aryan invasion. They impose outsider sociology with left-leaning academia, Marxists, along with archaeology, genetics, and circular dependencies. They directly impact you, who you are as a Hindu. So I've shown in a cartoonish way the frameworks and what they've been doing, right? Outsider frameworks in the colonial uphold the Bible's chronology, show Hindus as backward, primitive, superstitious, discriminatory, Eurocentric to show superiority of white Europeans, missionaries, all of this, and to promote Christianity and to show conflicts in India, that one jati is against another jati, suppressing all these kinds of things, and to claim victimhood. And socialist academia, they seem that to show Hindus as primitive, to show history from below, oppressor-oppressed dynamics. Every aspect of Indian social dynamics is seen as this person oppressed that person, this person is a victim, that person oppressed that. This is the way they see our history. And to show victim. Today we have Dravidianism that also embraces similar thinking. Hindus as primitive, backward, promoting Christianity, and to show class conflicts and claim victimhood. And today you have Islamism and wokeism that have also jumped into the fray, whether it is in India, whether it is in USA or so on. They're all strange bedfellows, and they continue with this kind of thinking. So understanding this helps us to define who our identity is. We are everything that they say, we are everything that, what do they say that's not there, right? It's a negation of it. So in my frameworks, I'm not going to bore you to death with this, but I use an evidence-based history, rational, logical analysis of data, models, frameworks, claims, with all these models, linguistic models, archaeology, genetics, astronomy, and I try to say who we are as a people. Why does this matter for today's Agastya Gurukulam? Why does it matter? Because here we want to try and teach people, about children, about our Indian knowledge systems, right? But what do the Westerners and academia say about Indian knowledge systems? That's where historicity comes into play. So what do they say? There is a fake narrative of Aryan invasion in 1500 BCE. They say illiterate nomads from Central Asia, that is your ancestors by the way, illiterate nomads, they destroyed the superior civilization of Harappa, and India had to wait for 1,000 years before civilization returned. So these illiterate nomads with cow, caste, Sanskrit, and the Vedic rituals, they were running around India. They didn't have a script, so they were illiterate. Right? And so India had to wait till the Greeks made contact with Magadha in 300 BCE after Alexander. Suddenly we got Ashokan script, we got the Brahmi script, we got that, we became civilized overnight. And after that India was civilized. Then they turn around and say, wait a minute, you are a young civilization, you have not had enough time to generate knowledge in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, law, other things. So if you have any evidence of advanced knowledge, it is not yours. You have not had enough gestation time. It must have come from the Greeks. It must have come from the Babylonians, the Egyptians, or older civilizations. So they say to us, Aryans brought Sanskrit to India from Syria, that area. Brahmi came from Levant, from the Aramaic script it came into India. Mathematics and sciences came from Greece to India. Astronomy came from Babylon into India. British taught us science, technology, and how to be rational in our thinking. And the Turkic Muslims, they brought us culture, cuisine, architecture, music, and civilization. Do you see the problem? This is what your children learn in your textbooks. If you have a child in AP World History, go and take a look at the pages. This is what they are teaching them. So they learn to completely deny their own civilization's accomplishments. So a denial of agency in history has led to a gross distortion of identity and many divisive forces today. And there's a criminal distortion of all the anchor points of chronology, every aspect of Indian knowledge system and identity. If you come and say, you know, we had Aryabhatta, he did all these wonderful things. The Britisher comes out, the European comes and says, you know what, he stole everything from Ptolemy. Ptolemy's Hermetist. You say that Shushruta did all these wonderful things. They say, you know what, Galen was doing all these things in Rome. So this is the problem. Unless you know historicity of Indian knowledge systems, you will not be in a position to assert your identity appropriately. So I'm not going to tell you all these. These are my talks. I have several talks on YouTube. Please search for my name. And I cover all these things and I examine the claims and I say this is all utterly bogus. And there is India is an ancient civilization. I show the antiquity of the Indian civilization going back 10,000 years or so. I show the development of knowledge systems in India. I'm not going to talk about that today, so don't be afraid. There's a lot to talk about over here. But I do offer a course at Hindu University of America on this, so those who are interested can take a 3-month course on that. But what I'd like to show you is, if I claim that India is an ancient civilization, you must come and tell me, wait a minute, the British have told us that you're a young civilization, you don't have any knowledge systems. Where is the evidence that Indians have knowledge? That's the first question you must ask me, right? You must ask, are you an ancient civilization? Where is your knowledge system, right? So, I show that our traditional knowledge systems are the Shruti and the Smriti. All of you have heard of the Vedas, right? The kids know about the Vedas, Samhitas, you've been learning some of these things. Very good. So we got the Vedas, Samhitas, Brahmanas, Harivatas, Upanishads. This is that which is heard, right? That oral tradition for a very, very long time, thousands and thousands of years, we've had a transmission of this knowledge. Smriti, that which is remembered. You see a script, that script tells you a word, that word makes a meaning in your mind, so you remember that. Right? So the 6 Vedangas, Itihasa, Dharma, Text and Dharma, Prakama, Moksha, Puranas, Kavyas, Bhashyas, a whole lot of words are there. And we have got a lot of ancient schools of philosophy in India. All of us know that, or maybe most of us know these things. We have got, for example, the Nyaya school, a one-line statement. All knowledge is not intrinsically valid. Most knowledge is not valid unless proven. Truth exists whether we human beings know it or not. Can you see that truisms over here? How amazing these things are. And the Rishi Akshapada Gautama, he's the one who propounded these things. Yoga, all of us have heard, Patanjali codified this one, Ashtanga, Yamas, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Very important for us as scientists today, Rishi Kanada, Vaisheshika, to say perception and inference. This is the basis of all of our rational thought, thinking, everything comes out of this framework. Samkhya, Rishi Kapila, systematic enumeration and rational examination. Purva Mimamsa, Kumarila Bhatta, reflection, consideration, profound thought, investigation, examination, discussion. Uttara Mimamsa, Vedanta, there are 10 schools today, Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, and so on, and Buddhist work is. Why am I saying all these things? If you say that India was a knowledge-based society, you must show is that epistemology, the difficult word, kids. Epistemology means a way of studying knowledge. Is there a way of studying knowledge? This is the evidence that yes, we've had rishis who have propounded philosophy on how to study knowledge, and their means of accepting knowledge was something called pramana. Okay? Just like today, if somebody tells you something, you'll say, where's the evidence for that? Then you'll say, I saw it published in this Nature publication or Cell publication, and this professor from MIT wrote this paper there, therefore it is true. So your pramana is some professor who has got some Ivy League credentials, and because he is great, therefore what he says is true. In India, it was like this for a long time. Pratyaksha, based on perception, anumana, inference, then for comparison, analogy, postulation, non-perception, negative proof, shabda pramana, relying on word of experts. These were the means by which truth can be accepted, right? Anybody can come and say any nonsense, but how are you going to accept it as the truth? So this is the way they were doing it, and each sampradaya only differed in terms of what was elevated as a means of true knowledge. For example, Sankhya would take from Anumana, it would take from Pratyaksha, it will also take from Shabda Pramana. The Charvakas would only take perception, only if I can experience it, it is true, otherwise it is not true. I reject the Vedas, I reject the Vedas, that's their Vedas. Buddhism, just like Vaisheshika, was only perception inference. By the time you go to Advaita, it takes just about everything. So this is the way Indians saw knowledge, and it's very important for us to understand, in the Indian context, one line describes who you are. What is the goal of life? What is the goal of life for a Hindu? The goal of life for us always has been to acquire knowledge. Always has been dispel avidya about your existence, and avidya, right? Vidya, that was the way to see. And to dispel ignorance is to gain knowledge, depending on sampradaya, all the pramanas, and so on. Your means was to acquire knowledge in that manner. So we can say that the Indians have been seekers always, in archaic language, thou shalt see. In opposition to that, today's world is mostly Abrahamic, right? Whether it's Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. So they are followers because they believe some prophet has given the word to them, or some son of God is born and whatever he said is true, and so on. So their goal in life is to follow a divine dictated law. Some divinity gave a law. If you follow that law, then in the afterlife you'll be admitted to heaven or everlasting hell, right? You'll be burning forever and ever to eternity in hell. That is the way they saw that. So that was the meaning of their life. But then for us, it's always been, you can gain knowledge of the self in this lifetime or maybe in multiple lifetimes based on your karma phala. So we were enjoined to live a life mindful of our karma, mindful of our dharma, so that we acquire knowledge till come to a point where you have got realization, self-realization. This is the goal of life for this Bharatiya civilization for thousands and thousands of years. This is who we have been. We have been truth seekers. And as if there is more proof that is needed, any one of our Shanti mantras that you take will show to you that the aspirations of the civilization have always been knowledge. This is the famous Shanti mantra from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. How many of you have heard this? Wonderful, very nice. So, Asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityo ma ramritamaya, om shanti shanti shanti. So it is saying, from ignorance lead me to truth, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. So clearly, Yajnavalkya who wrote this, when did Yajnavalkya live? Most of us don't know. Yes, sir.
It's Vadnagar in Gujarat, where the Prime Minister Narendra Modi comes from.
Yeah, but when did he live, Yajnavalkya? That's the question. Most of us don't know because we don't learn.
3000 BCE.
Yes, 5,000 years ago. Because in his books, he talked about the Kritika Nakshatra. Today the Pujari is telling you the nakshatras. He told today is Mula Nakshatra. There is a nakshatra called Kritika. In Greek it is called the Pleiades. Okay? So he wrote about where Kritika is in his lifetime. So scientists today can understand that and say, yes, he lived 5,000 years ago. I have done that in 3000 BC. So for the last 5,000 years at least, this has been our civilization, seeking truth. How old are some of our darshanas? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. You believe the British, they tell you 300 BC, 600 BC, 200 current era. Whatever comes to their mind, they will tell you these things. But we can use rationality and logic to try and understand it. Kapila, who's talking about Samkhya, is mentioning the Rig Veda itself, Yajurveda. So that is the most ancient. Samkhya can be put in the same time frame as the Rig Veda. Rishi Kanada is mentioning Samkhya, therefore he is after that. He is also mentioning Mimamsa, so he is after that. But it does not mention Buddhism. In our Puranas, Buddha is dated to 1800 BCE. If you believe the British record, Buddha is 500 BCE. But if you take a look at some of the carbon dating happening in the University of Manchester in the Lumbini area in Nepal, they are seeing artifacts from a Buddhist temple going to 1600 BCE, carbon dated artifacts, which you can Google for and get today. Our Puranas put Buddha to 1800 BC. Therefore, Rishi Kanada, who talked about Vaisheshika, is before Buddha, right? Some, I don't know when, I'm just saying before. So maybe 2000 BC, that's 4000 years and so on. And Vaisheshika mentions Mimamsa. Buddha is using Nyaya, so we can put Nyaya somewhere over here. So very clearly we can see we have a great antiquity for Indian knowledge systems. And just to talk a little bit about Vaisheshika, it talked about Pratyaksha and Anumana. Perception was of two kinds. External perception with our sense objects. You got your eyes, you got your nose, you got your touch, taste, smell, hearing, all these things, right? So you can understand the world, natural world through external or through the mind. And Vaisheshika always said that is a better way of knowing through the mind than through the And inference was reaching new conclusion and truth from observation of previous truths. This is exactly the scientific way. The scientific way is you examine old evidences that you have and you construct a new truth based on that. So very clearly we are seeing this kind of thinking over here. What did other civilizations have? Because when we talk about historicity, we need to understand what other civilizations have in terms of knowledge. If you take a look at the ancient civilizations we had in Harappa, we had something going on. According to the British, there's no Vedic over here. We had the Chinese over here. You had the Egyptians, and you had something in the Sumeria area and so on. The Egyptians, they used religious entities as reference to abstract ideas. They always sought answers within tradition, meaning you follow a smriti. There is smriti, you follow the smriti, don't go outside. That's how they did it. They had writing and so on. I won't talk much about the Egyptians, but that's what it is. Mesopotamia. The Westerners love to say Indians copied from the Mesopotamians, all their knowledge systems, right? So I'm trying to talk about that. So we know there are many, many dynasties ruled over there, but mostly we are concerned with Neo-Babylon, 600 BC, when they think astronomy came to them, they were copied from them and so on. So they also followed, they said, imagination is a process of clarifying randomness, hypothesis. If you see a phenomena, how do you know what it is? So they have an imagination to say why the phenomenon is happening, and they use deductive logic to find causal relationships. So in other words, it was Vaisheshika over here. The Chinese had almost exactly similar knowledge as the Indian systems, and we know this. The Greeks, from whom we are supposed to have copied, only had a philosophy from 400 BC to 300 BC. And the big three for them are Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Socrates did not leave any writing, but his student Plato wrote a lot. So according to Plato, there are three kinds of knowledge. Knowledge from senses. Where did we see that before? Vaisheshika. Knowledge from senses of objects, color, taste, touch. But this is not real knowledge. Just like Vaisheshika is telling us, at night you look at a rope on the road, you think there's a snake in the rope, you got a snake. But then with some light you know it's not a snake. So your perception is incorrect, right? That's what he's saying over there. Then he says knowledge through mind or wisdom, the highest degree of knowledge, virtues of truth and so on. This is exactly Vaisheshika. Right? The Greeks have copied Vaisheshika 100% over here. So the roots of our knowledge system, if you take now, what are the knowledge systems Indians had? Indians had medicine, right? Roots go all the way to Atharva Veda. And Atharva Veda led to Ayurveda. And some of the greatest names we have, Charaka, Shushruta Samhita, great compendiums of Indian knowledge, medical knowledge. We know, you can see my talks where I talk about Nepalese, Hittites, Egyptians, Chinese, influenced by Indian medical systems. Medieval Europe, that depended on drugs from India. Arab medicine was based on Ayurveda since Bin Qasim's time. Ayurveda was a corpus of European knowledge all through colonial era. It was taught in the medical schools in India till 1880, forming the core of our pharmaceutical methods. This is what we know, the roots of our modern knowledge systems in medicine goes all the way back there. What about mathematics? Well, India, we've seen evidence of mathematics. Kids, you may want to see, very interesting over here. Indians first started counting. Today you'll think counting is so trivial. I can count with my fingers, I can count to 100, 1,000 and so on. Rig Veda itself is talking about enumeration, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Can you believe this? Rig Veda, which goes back to an exceedingly ancient period of time, is already talking about addition, subtraction, things that you do today in school and so on, came from a very ancient period of time. Mathematics of architecture, for example, Baudhayana Sulba Sutra, geometry, right angle triangle, circle, pi, square root, all these things are there, Baudhayana Sulba Sutra. If you see my talks, you'll understand that he has to be dated way back to 2000 BC, 3000 BC. You'll see that. Mathematics of commerce, Indians were great, our Vaishyas were great at trading all over the place, right? Without mathematics, a businessman will be cheated right through his teeth, right? If you don't know what the exchange rate between a gold coin of China versus gold coin of India, India's gold coin is 10 grams and China's gold coin is 6 grams. If you don't know ratio and conversion, you're going to be cheated. So Indians are experts in arithmetic, algebra, solving equations. Evidence is Bakshali manuscript. Then in the modeling of astronomy, Aryabhatiya, Surya Siddhanta, trigonometry, many other things, advanced modeling. So many evidences are there. So the roots of mathematics is in the Vedas. Harappa is showing standardization of measures and so on, archaeological evidence. Bakshali manuscript, dated to 200 current era, that is showing evidence of algebra, solution of equations. By the time you come to Aryabhatta, we are seeing greatly refined trigonometry. Brahmagupta, Bhaskara 1, Bhaskara 2, added to that, Kerala School of Math, Ramanuja. You know all these things. What about astronomy? Even the roots of astronomy can be seen in India. So we can see that astronomical knowledge initially was in stories. Today we see a Purana story and we laugh. Oh man, moon married 27 daughters of King Daksha, what nonsense. But our ancients encoded wisdom in stories. That is the bottom line. Initially it was embedded in stories. Heliocentric model was there in Shatapatha Brahmana and Aitreya Brahmana. People will find it shocking, but it is there. Aitreya Brahmana, Shatapatha Brahmana talk to the heliocentric model.
What's a heliocentric model?
Good question. Heliocentric model means center. Helios is the Greek word for sun, and centric. Heliocentric means the sun is at the center and the planets are going around the sun. That is what we see today. For a long time, people did not know. I mean, if you sit on Earth, it doesn't look like it's spinning. Can you figure out that this thing? I can't make out, right? So people thought Earth is fixed and everything is going around the sun. But our ancestors knew way back in Shatapatha Brahmana, 3000 BC, which is what Rishi Yajnavalkya wrote. Right? We know from that time onwards, it's been known that. It gave way to Siddhantic astronomy. There are many works that have been lost. It estimates the course of sun, moon, planets, and so on with mathematical models, and many things that I'm not going to bore you to death. Even the roots of music. Today's Westerners say all of music is an independent development in India, China, and Greece. And my question to them is, why did all of them find the same raga? For example, the fundamental scale. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, ga, ni, sa. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Why do we have the same tonal differences between C to D, D to E, and so on? Every culture has got the same thing, right? So that question must be asked. That means there probably was a place of origin. From that origin has gone out. And so the earliest music we have is Samaveda. The 3-tonal music gave way to 5-tonal music, to 7-tone, to 12 semitone, to 22 shruti system. Evidence is there in Chandogya Upanishad. That is talking about this one. Music is discussed also in Bharata Muni's Natya Shastra. Musical intervals are based on rope. You can use a thread, a rope, and the ratios were computed using that, with geometry and so on. So the musical intervals are based on the chord ratios, and Pythagoras used exactly the same chord-based ratio for music. So he learned in India. Pythagoras is seen as the father of Western music, and so he learned the same thing. Just like Indians, we worship Saraswati today, right? All of you kids know that. We did a lot of vandanas to Saraswati Mata today, right? So just like that, Pythagoras, he prayed to the goddess called Muses, and he wanted a statue to be erected for her in his village after he came back from India. Again, praising the divinity, female divinity of music. Very, very interesting to see that. Even the modern systems, you have cell phones today, computers today, Indians did not invent that. So don't say we had that in India. But how do these things run? How do these things work? They work on something called 0-1 mathematics, okay? It is on or it is off, that kind of a logic. So we are seeing that the Nasati Sutta itself, Rig Veda, is talking about A and not A, which is basically the not A. Not A that are shown over here is A and not A. So electrical engineers know all of these logic gates, we study about that. Holbrook, he wrote a work on Indian logic in 1824. You find a lot of Indian logic in Pingala's work, Chanda Shastra, and the successor works on combinatorics. Combinatorics means working with integers and so on. And Holbrook's work influenced George Boole and D. Morgan. These are the people who wrote the Boolean algebra, so-called Boolean algebra, which has impacted the world today. How do we know that? Because his wife, May Everest Boole, she wrote a letter to Jagdish Chandra Bose in 1901. In that detailed letter, she said, my husband and his partner, D. Morgan, they were greatly influenced by Indian logic. So Indian logic forms the basis of all the Boolean algebra that we see today, which powers all the digital devices, all the things that we have today. So Indian DNA is there all the way to this. This is what we make out from here. And evidence is there all over the place. We have a lot of universities, brick and mortar universities, forest universities, hermitages, ashrams. We had that in history, a whole lot of them are there. I'm not going over that at this point. I'll conclude over here by talking about how knowledge went out of India. My thesis has been that India is an ancient civilization. The roots of much of knowledge, whether it is in music, whether it is in mathematics, whether it is in astronomy, medicine, the roots have been in ancient Indian literature and has impacted and influenced knowledge in other parts of the world. When I make a claim like that, I must provide some evidence at least, right? So the remaining portion, I'll quickly breeze through that and we can conclude after watching it. So, we know from genetic studies today, these are very big words, so kids don't be frightened. Today there are scientists who can take your saliva sample or your blood sample and they can tell you who your ancestors were and where they might have come from. So we know from something called maternal mitochondrial DNA studies that 55,000 years to 30,000 years ago, people who carried these mutations, R, N, and M markers, they were the ones who populated all the non-African populations. So out of Africa, 85,000 years ago, we had a group of people who came to India, and from India, this R goes into Europe and populates Europe, M and N through Australasia, Siberia, North and South America. So it is the Indian DNA at a very ancient period of time that seems to be adapted to the rest of the world. And I'd like to point out one of the very early knowledge transmissions. How many of you have heard the word shaman? You have not heard the word shaman, right? Shaman, or in India we call them tantrics. Okay? So there are shamans in every part of the world. If you go to Siberia, you find shamans. Shamans are like holy men who try to cure people with beating of drums, the same kind of drums. Whether you go to North America, South America, whether you go to Siberia, Russia, Korea, Vietnam, India, Czechoslovakia, in many other places you find shaman culture. All shamans beat drums, all shamans get to a trance-like state, all shamans smoke certain drugs, and they try to intercede with the spirit world to cure your imbalances. How come the same feature everywhere, unless there was a common origin? So my theory is that maybe 40,000 years ago, some form of religion started in India and it was taken out by the migrants, and that's why we find a common shaman culture in Russia, Alaska, Americas. And there are many, many routes for knowledge transfer. I will talk to you about shaman. We had Harappa trade routes. From Harappa, Lothar, from Lota, people used to go by hugging the coast all the way to Bilmo in Bahrain today, all the way to this place. This place is where Sumerians, Babylon, the Kassites, and other people were basically over there. There's also land-based trade going on over here to Shokugai and this experience. So that is one route for knowledge transmission. And other ancient routes, we know the Pumpuhar. Pumpuhar is outside of Bay of Bengal, where scientists today have uncovered underwater archaeology, which they're dating back almost 18,000 years before present. A harbor, natural harbor exists 24 kilometers outside the coastline of India, 400 feet below the waterline. They have discovered these things. So that is also evidence of that. You can go to Lothal, it also shows marine activity, Harappa. Vedic records are there of migration to the west. Then we know about climate-induced change, Saraswati era climate-induced change 2000 BC. That is when a whole lot of people went out of India, and the influence of Mitannis, Hittites, Elamites, Canaanites, the Minoan people traveled by Greek scholars, get evidence of all of these things. And where is the evidence for that? Here is one evidence. Scientists are great people, right? They do all kinds of amazing things. They try to say today, how many know what's ragi? You know ragi, right? Yeah, ragi is an ancient crop. It belongs to something called millets. Okay? So millets, people are trying to find out where did millets come from. This is a paper in a scientific paper journal called Scientific Reports in Nature. It came out in 2022. And they are showing that some of the earliest millets they have recovered is 3rd millennium BC in India. Basically, it's in India. It is from India. It seems to have gone to different parts over here as well as over here. So the entire transmission, 2nd millennium, 1st millennium, seems to have come from India, clearly showing transmission of agriculture, agricultural methods, knowledge transmission over there has come from this part of the world. That's one example. Another example, another paper that came out in Science in 2019. How many of you have seen bullock cart in India, this kind of bull? You've seen that, right? Very, very popular bull, the humped bull. That humped bull is special to India. It is called zebu, Bos indicus. It is not there in other parts of the world. If you go to a ranch in USA, in Texas, look at the cows. Do the cows have a hump? They don't have a hump. If you want to see the hump, you must go to India and see that. So these humped bulls, suddenly they went up in northern Iraq. Around 4,000 years ago, they found that suddenly the presence of Indian bull went up. Indian bulls did not go there by themselves. Their owners took them over there. No visa, passport those days. Anybody could go. Why did they go? Why did they go? That's a question. Well, India suffered a monsoon failure. Not 1 year, not 2 years. 200-year monsoon failure was experienced in 4,000 years ago, 2,200 BCE. And that led to people going wherever water is. Today you open the pipe and water comes, right? Where did the water come from? That water came from some river somewhere and they pump it with electricity. If you don't have electricity, how do you get water? So old days they lived next to the river. So the river is dry. How does the river get water? River gets water because there's rain coming there or there's glacier. Glacier is melting and it's coming there. And that gets replenished by rainwater. If there's no rain, what do you do? If there's no water, what do? We'll die in days, right? So whether you have your house there or not, everybody will migrate, will go out and wherever there is water. That is what happened. This paper talks about Indian bull coming 2200 BC, and this led immediately to knowledge systems in Egypt, in northern Iraq, which is the Mitanni people, the Hittite people, Indian knowledge in medicine, astronomy, mathematics. I've got several evidences I talked about these things. And this is very famous. How many of you have been to India and seen this? You've seen this, right? Wherever you go to Indian temples. What is that? It's called a langur. Langur is an Indian monkey. In Indian temples. This one is from a palace, not in India. Far away from India in Greece. There's an island called Crete. Crete is an island in Greece. And there was a civilization there called the Minoan civilization, going back to 2000 BC to 1600 BC. So scientists, archaeologists, they excavated the palace and they restored, the walls are all very muddy and dirty. So they restored the frescoes means paintings, on the walls. And they were shocked, they found Indian monkeys there. What are Indian monkeys doing there? They're not supposed to live there. They live in India, not here. that shows that even in 1600 BCE, there was contact between India and Greece. So a lot of evidence is there. Second route for knowledge transfer, after Alexander, we had this something called Seleucid Empire, all the way from Afghanistan till the Mediterranean Sea. And that formed a conduit for knowledge transmission by the land route. So we have a lot of evidence of that. And one big example is Pythagoras. Pythagoras was a rishi in the Greek tradition. He was a very wise man who founded philosophical schools and music, the way of life, and everything. He came to India, learned in India according to these people, Albert Burke, A.N. Marlowe, G.R.S. Mead, and others. And when he went back to Greece, they called him a mad fellow. You know why they called him a mad fellow? Because in Greece, everybody used to eat meat. He stopped eating meat. He became a vegetarian. And he had a Gurukulam. There you go, Gurukulam, there is school right there those days, where he was an acharya in charge. Around him were the inner circle disciples, bachelor disciples, on the way to receive wisdom, outer circle with other things. This Gurukulam school was inherited by Socrates, inherited by Aristotle, and continued on through the Greek tradition. It is basically this one.
But did they stop it?
Yes, after Greece was conquered by Roman Empire adopted Christianity in 330 current year. When they adopted Christianity, they said these are all pagan, wrong ways, and stopped everything.
What does pagan mean?
It's a bad word. It's a word which says that these people are not the true God, because they believe that they have the reality. They believe that they know the truth. Everybody else does not know. So they thought anybody who does not worship like them is a pagan. Our ancestors said many ways lead to the one. They said only this way or else you're lost. So they called them pagans. So they lost it when the Roman Empire became Christian in 330 current year. And Pythagoras also believed in something called transmission of souls. Transmission of souls is what we believe, right? After we die, what happens to our Atma? Based on
Our Atma goes into a womb.
Yes. Based on our karma phala. Karma phala means having done good deeds and so on. Based on that, Bhagavan Krishna is saying, you may be born in a family that's closer to a spiritual goal or further away from a spiritual goal based upon your karma phala. So Pythagoras believed that. Pythagoras believed all these Hindu ideas, and there are papers on this, papers on doctrine of transmission and so on. One more person, Democritus. Democritus is said to have visited India by Cicero and Strabo. These are historians who lived in Rome and Greece at that time. So he came to India, learned Vaisheshika, and he propounded Vaisheshika there. If you read your textbooks today, he's called the father of modern science because he said something called atomic theory. Atomic theory is already there in Vaisheshika. So he only took Vaisheshika and introduced that to European audiences. That's all.
In our textbook, we only have Vagbata and stuff. We don't know what.
When you grow up, when you go to maybe the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade.
I am in 6th grade.
little later. Wait for a couple of years. Maybe Archana ma'am will tell you. Okay. Also, the medical systems. Medical systems, today the Western tradition says hypocrites. All the medical doctors, if you go to medical school here, they make you take something called Hippocrates oath, right? That oath came from Charaka Samhita, and so on. How did Hippocrates know Charaka Samhita? That is the question, right? So he proposed something like this. He said, the human body, if you're sick or anything, if you're out of balance, we can think of it in terms of yellow bile, black bile, phlegm, blood, hot, dry, cold, wet. This is very similar to our Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, we have something called Tridosha system, right?
Yes.
You heard that, right?
Yeah.
Vata, Pitta, Kapha. This is so whenever it's out of balance, that's where we feel sleepy, lethargic, not well, because you're out of balance. So Ayurveda is all about how do we come back into balance, right? So that is the thinking of Ayurveda. So he borrowed the same model and made his own model like this, which is used in Europe. And so he got ideas on how these things came about. I'm just showing you the example. This is a famous vessel called the Bundestrop cargo. This is found in Denmark, dated to 200 BCE. What is interesting for us is that This figure that is shown here is exactly the Pashupati scene from Harappa. 3000 BC Harappa, you can see the animal figurines over here, the horned heads, wearing horns and so on, in a yogic kind of meditation pose, saying things, squatting with a horned head with animal figurines over here. And what is that doing in Denmark in 200 BC of all times? So we see Indic thought all over the place. I'm just giving you a few examples over here. And we know the third route is the Silk Route. Silk Road was an informal trade from China, Southeast Asia, through India, through Central Asia, through Mediterranean countries, right? Not only did they trade in materials, but they also traded in knowledge systems. We know that because Indian book, Boer manuscript. Boer manuscript was named for a British officer called Boer, who found the palm leaves. Many palm leaves were found containing Indian medical knowledge. So he took that in 1800, so it's called Boer manuscript. Where was the manuscript found? Not in India. It's found in Xinjiang province, somewhere over here. And the fact that Indian knowledge is found there shows that Indian knowledge also was going on as part of these things. And we know travelers came from China to India. One such traveler was Fahian, another one was Yuan Sang. So they too came, took knowledge. So not only to the west, also to the east, to the north, Indian knowledge went out there. Then we know Romans. Romans traded India from 200 BC to find current India. They would come from Mediterranean lands. This is Greece, Italy is over here, right? They'll come in the Mediterranean Sea and stop here. You know what the port is called there? Okay. This is Alexandria over here.
Yeah,
You've learned that, right? Alexandria. So they'll cross the land bridge and they'll come to this place. What is this place called?
Red Sea.
Good job, good job. Yes, the Red Sea. So how did their ships come from there to here? Did they lift their ships and go to land? Indian ships will be waiting for them. Indian ships will be waiting in the Red Sea depending on the monsoon time frame. So the Europeans would come with their little ships and will stop over here, land caravan. Indian ships would take them all the way from here to these ports in India to trade. And they traded in Indian drugs, Indian silk, Indian all kinds of Indian things, and they take it back. When the monsoon winds are right, they'll go back and take it. And how do we know that? Because we have found Indian teak. Teak is a very special wood that is grown in India. Very hard wood. We have found evidence of Indian teak in all of these places. That tells us that Indian ships were the ones doing this and not the Western ships doing it. Very interesting to see that. We also know a figure called Dioscorides. It's a strange name, right? It's a Roman name. Okay? He was very famous in the Roman tradition because he wrote books on medical practice. So this is called Materia Medica. In his book, all the drugs, not all, many of the drugs are Indian plants. How did he know about Indian plants? Because of the Roman trade, so he knew about it. Alright, in the Muslim period also we had a lot of transmissions. I'm not going to tell you detail, I'll close it pretty soon. In 711 current era, the Muslims who came on the scene, they conquered Sindh, this part of India and Sindh. And they took the Indian scientists, people called Manka and Kanka and others, they took the Sanskrit pundits with them to Baghdad. In Baghdad, they were made to translate the Sanskrit words. There were words in Charaka Samhita, Surya Siddhanta, all these words are translated. That's how the Arabs learned mathematics. Before that, they did not know mathematics. They were nomadic people. They did not know mathematics, they did not know medicine, they did not know anything. Everything came from Indian transmissions. At that time, the Muslims controlled not only Afghanistan, not only Arabia, not only Egypt, not only Algeria, Tunisia, all the way to Morocco. They also controlled southern Spain. So what they did is, all the knowledge they wrote in Arabic and Persian was injected into all these countries. So Indian knowledge from Sanskrit, translated into Arabic, was injected up to Europe, up to Spain. And in northern Spain, it's Christian, there were Christian monks whose job was to translate from Arabic into Latin. And that is how many of these things happen. So we know many of the scientists in Arab world, Al-Fazari, Al-Kindi, Ibn Sina, they all used Indian words, Vishnuddha Samhita, Charaka Samhita, and many other words. In Baghdad, there was a famous house called House of Wisdom, set by Caliph called Harun al-Rashid. Okay? So he was very, very famous because of the school where there were many, many scholars. These scholars collected works of Plato, Pythagoras, of Shushruta, Charaka, Aryabhatta, Brahmagupta. Everything was translated. Unfortunately for them, in 1258, the Mongols invaded them and they burnt this entire library down. So all the works were lost, but by the time Indian knowledge is already gone out of this place. So Indian knowledge went to the Greeks and the Romans. It was destroyed during Christianization, but the Muslims got that through the Levant and other areas. They also got knowledge destructively from India, consolidated all of this knowledge. It was injected into Europe through translation schools in Toledo as well as in Italy. That is how the 10th century, 11th century, 12th century, 13th century, Europe that was backward, primitive, in dark ages, under the clutches of church. What does the church say? Thou shalt believe. You should not have rational thought. You should be a sheep. You should follow the shepherd. That was their thinking, right? So no independent thought. A scientist got to think. If a scientist cannot think for themselves, there's no science. So how did they get their science? They got it basically from Arabic translations into Latin, which were in turn Indian works. That is how they got it. So we know there's evidence of a lot of translations in Toledo, Raymond of Cremona, the Gerard of Cremona. I'm not going to talk to you about all these. In Italy also we know translations, all the works are translated. This is very interesting because this is from 12th century Britain. In 12th century Britain, British Library just about 2 years back released an illustrated book on Twitter, and I quickly took copies of that. That shows illustration of how surgery came to Britain. And the surgery described over here is exactly what Shushruta is talking about. So Shushrutas works on cataract surgery, on hemorrhoid surgery, and several other surgeries was copied into Arabic, from Arabic to Latin, from Latin to diffuse. Diffuse means gone out into Europe. And Europe has just done illustrated manuscript showing how to do nasal growth, cataracts, and other such things. So we also know a lot of Europeans, they directly came to India, from Marco Polo, who came to Mylapore, for example, and the bishop came to Ceylon, and other people, colonialists, Portuguese, Dutch, French, British, up to present day. Even today, scientists, when they want to understand something called quantum phenomena. Have you heard the word quantum? You've heard it. It's a complicated science, okay? But you learn, once you grow up, you learn a little bit more about it. To understand the quantum world, the inspiration even today's Vedanta. Vedanta provides a models based on which we understand the quantum world and behavior. So I'm not going to go into those kind of things. This is my final map. After this we stop. Okay, I know you guys are tired. It's been a long day. So this map shows a reality. My first map showed you what others are saying, that it came from outside into India, that one came from British, this one came from so on. The reality based on my research, what I found, is not at all that. You can see that very early from Lothar, we know that knowledge is going to Siberia, 3000 BCE. Then we know when the monsoons fade for 200 years, from India to the fertile crescent, meaning Egypt, as well as northern Iraq, as well as Turkey, Hittites, 2000 BC, fertile crescent, Indian knowledge went on. Indian knowledge, the trading route went to Armenia, Syria, 400 BC to 1800 BC. From here, it went from the Hittites to the Minoan culture. We know that 1500 BC. Greek philosophers, 500 BC, 400 BC. Then we know about Indo-Roman trade, 200 BC to 400 trade route. Knowledge went out over there. Islamic, from India to Baghdad, Baghdad to Italy, Italy to Spain, and from Spain, from Toledo, diffused into all parts of Europe and led to the so-called Renaissance. So if you see the Renaissance, it is described in textbooks as a flowering of European thought. Nobody asks, how did this flower bloom? Who watered it? Where did it come from? Did it come in a vacuum? These are people who are disease-ridden, right? They were living in the same room, one room as pigs and cows, livestock and such things. People who didn't even have hygiene. And people who didn't know how to wash themselves after their morning work. These are the people who apparently came into the Renaissance. How did it happen? It happened because of this transmission. 300 years of transmission of Indian knowledge into Western Europe gradually led to it. I describe this in much more detail in my course at Hindu University of America. If you're interested, do join me. So, bottom line, I'm not going to read all these things. Many ways from very ancient times to present times. I have traced out the knowledge transmissions from India, Indian knowledge systems. And what have we done today? What have we done today? I have not talked to you about Indian knowledge systems. There are experts to build up. Experts who talk to you about astronomy, mathematics, philosophy, music, and so on. I have talked to you about the historicity of Indian knowledge systems. Where is the evidence for that? If you let the Westerners define your reality, you'll be chained to their version of your truth. Your truth is completely different. At Agastya Gurukulam, I hope we will go towards understanding what is the reality of our existence, our truth. We are a truth-seeking civilization, right? We seek the truth. As scientists, what do? We use rationality, logic, evidence, facts, and we uncover the truth. That's what we are all about, right? So we are perfectly fit into this modern world with scientists and so on. So I hope that's what we'll get to in the future. So bottom line, whatever we are learning in schools and universities is utterly wrong. Not at Agastya Gurukulam. They'll teach you right things here. But in other places, it is completely wrong. And there are some agencies that control Bottom line, you can recover and strengthen your identity with knowledge. I'm done, kids. I'm done. So it's lunchtime. Bottom line, you can read that. There's a whole lot of knowledge that your ancestors have. Much for you to be proud about, much for you to stand tall. But if you let others define your reality, they will tell you that you had nothing. Thank you very much.
Can you talk about 2 points? One is I have the trifold brochures for the parents of the HUA.
Yes.
And secondly, if you can announce your thing of the Hindu temple tomorrow in Woodlands.
Yeah, just 2 more announcements. If anybody's interested in these things, I offer 2 courses at Hindu University of America. It's an online course. One of them is seeing the scientific evidence for the antiquity of India. Other one is the historicity of our knowledge systems. What have you learned here today in much more depth and detail? I covered these 2 courses, so please feel free to take them if you're interested.
This is for the parents, not the kids.
For the parents, not the kids, yes. Yes. And also tomorrow at Hindu Temple of Woodlands, I'm going to offer a talk, what every Indian American should know about their civilization. This is especially important for the youth, not very young, but maybe high school and college youth and so on. Parents also, please do come. It's at 4 o'clock at Hindu Temple of Woodlands. It is what every Indian American should know about their civilization. It will be a nice complement to what you heard here today. It will be a different subject.
Thank you very much, Raj Vedamji. That was a fascinating talk, and a lot of things that I learned. I mean, I try to keep myself informed about this, but there was so much new that I learned, and my, the whole goal of Agastya is so much strengthened by this. This was one thing I did not mention there while I spoke, but creating an identity is something that's very important that we absolutely intend to do with Agastya, and I believe we are doing that. The identity of being Indian, of being proud of our roots, and there's plenty of reason to be proud. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation, for talking to us. And most interestingly, our children were engaging with this talk. I did not expect that. I expected this would be more for a parent's talk, but it's wonderful to see that. Thank you so much.
You said you'd end on page 36 and you ended it on page 62.
I'm a liar, aren't I?
So as you can see, these are our children. They're so sharp that, we have a challenge that only our Bharatiya knowledge systems can support. Yes. The modern, Kool-Aid that we can give them will never work. No, so these are our sharp children. So I want to thank Mr. Vedamji, Dr. Vedamji here again. His talk is, he said even his talk is directed towards adults, but as you can see, front and center, the children were here. Even if you take his course, I think you will only increase your hunger. You will find out all you didn't know. And then there is always, it's a journey. So thank you for that. Thank you. His other talks on Sangam talks are longer, and he goes a little bit in more depth. Definitely go and listen to them, and if you subscribe, then you will know. Unfortunately, today we could not give him that much time, and again, as we stand here, it's been, when I finish, then it's lunch, so we'll. Thank you. Sir. Thank you. And again, I want to thank everyone that came here today, especially many of you have come from far away, and I know some of you want to register, so and you're waiting for that. So we're ready. I can assure you, no worries. It's just a few more minutes. I want to tell you one story. Story, yes? Everybody ready for story? Okay. And this is from my first or second grade textbook. It's called, the name of the story is Aao or Jao. So some of you may know it because you all study the same textbooks that I did. So there is a farmer who gets old, so he takes his farm, divides it in two, gives it to his two sons. A typical story, right? All right, so one farm is doing very well and the other one is not. So one of the observers wanted to go and see what is going on in each of these. So he goes to the farm that is flourishing and he says, what is going on here? And he saw that when the observer, he arrived even, the farmer was ready, he was fresh, he was ready to go to the farm, and he went and he observed, he said, okay, the carrot patch, this needs to be done, we need to mulch there, we need to do these things. And when his employees came to work, he said, ow, come on, let us do this together. And that happened bright and early and in the day, and then by 11, 12 o'clock, when it was about lunchtime, their families brought lunch from home, and they all sat under the shade of a tree, and even as they were sitting and eating together, the employees reported him, oh, you know what, the mice population has increased in that side, we need to do some pest control, we need to do this, can you improvise like this? So this was the one picture he saw. Now this observer went next day to the other farm. And he saw that same way, that brother is ready, he opens the employees come and knock on his door, he opens the door and he tells them, okay, that patch needs this work, that patch, go, aap jao, kaam karo. And so the employees go there, they do to the best of their ability based on what instruction they have received and based on what their interpretation of the advice they have received. If they have any questions, the farmer is about to come, he will come, he's there, he'll be there shortly. And so all that, and then by the time it's their lunchtime, the farmer has just arrived an hour or two before, so he's not hungry yet. So they're hungry, and they're, what's this American word? Hangry. They're already hangry, right? And in this way, there's a little bit of friction, but work is going on. They're still producing. The farm is still producing. Why am I telling you this story? We are going to raise your kids with these morals. If you want to do something well, you have to do something well yourself. From the start, be proactive and do it yourself. And the message, so this is the message to the children. Message to the parents and adults here. If you tell your children, jao, Agastya Gurukulam, roz subah jao, not going to work. You're going to have to be involved in it. And you're going to have to be part of the nurturing triangle. This is a triangle, so the parents, us here at Agastya Gurukulam and the children. So whether we become an obtuse triangle, acute triangle, or a nicely balanced equilateral triangle is up to us. So this is, I wanted to say thank you very much. So now we will proceed to the other end of the hall where you can see some classrooms and lunch is already served. So yes, any other messages? So we have this wonderful premises here, the Haveli. When we saw this, the choice was easy, and the classrooms, you will see when you see the classrooms how well equipped it is, how technologically it is, completely modern, up to date. There is a big farm, open area in the back where our children are going to do farming. So you can see, we can show you some of the classrooms. We haven't organized a tour as such. I guess we can visit the other classrooms after lunch if you all want, but we will proceed for that now. So, and then of course, parents can interact among themselves with the teachers too. So thank you very much, and let us have lunch. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I have this? Yes, my mother's
This
phone.
is okay.
Yeah, this one. Let me close this.
मैं फोन क्यों रख रहा था